I'm frankly pretty annoyed and confused by Tesla's behavior with the standard range Model Y in the past few weeks. So there's a lot of speculation that can be done here, but honestly, I'm glad I waited a few days to report on this because we finally got a quote from Elon on the subject, but at the same time, it didn't really help very much. So let's acknowledge the good news first and foremost. So it's easy when we're getting upset about the lack of standard range Model Y to miss over some good information, which is that both the all-wheel drive long range Model 3 and long range Model Y got a $1,000 price decrease, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the cheapest both of these have ever been in history, which is pretty amazing. So now, dual motor long range Model Y starts at $49,000, and the dual motor Model 3 long range now starts at $46,000, which is really competitive and honestly a great bang for your buck. The fact that you can spend 46 grand on an EV and get 350 miles of range and all the great safety features, the amazing tech. First of all, hats off to Tesla. Thank you for lowering the price on those vehicles. That's an amazing deal. But now let's focus on the main concern of this video. What was Tesla actually thinking with the standard range Model Y? Because first of all, way back in July, we get a few tweets from Elon that says that they've officially decided not to make it. The range would be below 250 miles. Elon's not happy with that. So instead, they said they would eventually launch a single motor long range Model Y that would get even better range than the dual motor and at the same time improve on affordability. So I made a ton of videos on that because that sounded like the dream Tesla, the best Tesla possible, get great range. A lot of people know that all-wheel drive is not a mandatory thing, even in winter climates. Just making sure you have winter tires is probably going to help you out the best, and rear-wheel drive should be fine. And people always care about range and of course always care about price. So as soon as you can hit a lower price point with an exceptionally better range, you will instantly have a smash product on your hands. So we were really pumped to see that model come out. It never did, and then come to January, Tesla actually launches the standard range Model Y, available on the website, even included the premium interior and everything with a range of 244 miles. Some people see that as being pretty low in the 0 to 60 of 5.3 seconds, still plenty fast in my opinion, but me and many others on the internet were all saying, yes, thank you Tesla. We were kind of upset that you didn't want to make a standard range Model Y, and we think that not for everybody, but there's certainly a lot of people, especially those who live in warmer climates, that would be more than happy with a range of 244 miles. It covers your daily driving habits fine, and it ultimately just means you gotta stop on road trips a little more frequently, which some people, in order to save $10,000, they're willing to make that compromise. They're like, okay, my road trips are gonna take a little bit longer, big whoop, I saved myself a big hunk of cash. So that standard range Model Y was $42,000 for a little while, and then just last week, they decreased the price by $2,000, which was mind-blowing to me. Finally seeing a Model Y below 40 grand, I was like, man, this is the best bang for your buck Tesla, I think, of all time. The range is a little bit low, but with the practicality of the powered liftgate and how comfortable it is to sit 5 adults inside the Model Y, this is just a killer product, and I'm really happy they brought it to market, and then just a mere like 2 or 3 days after they decreased the price, they now remove it from the website entirely, and even removed it from their warranty pages, which typically doesn't happen unless they don't really plan on bringing it back to the website. But with Tesla's behavior these days, who knows what they're actually thinking. And Elon's comment on the subject was that that particular Model Y was not hitting the standard of excellence that Tesla strives for, which in my opinion, you know, of all Elon Musk being genuine and honest responses, that one never really sat right with me. I never really understood when companies would say things like, well, it didn't really hit our standard that we hold our vehicles to. It feels like the high and mighty way of saying that that vehicle wasn't working out for us. Either maybe no one was ordering it and the demand was super duper low, and even after the price cut, they weren't seeing anybody order one, which doesn't sound too believable to me because of how good a deal it was. And I personally knew a lot of people that were very interested in the Model Y as soon as the standard range option came out. Even family members were like, hey, I'm actually considering getting one now. And for the record, they did build and deliver these Model Y units. It was not in hypothetical land for a month, basically. No, they were actually building them and delivering them to consumers, which means there is a Model Y rear-wheel drive assembly line at Fremont somewhere. So they went through all the work of developing different battery packs, a different assembly line, so that they could lower the price and just have one motor in one of the Model Y assembly lines. Started mass producing them, even went through the update of giving them the heated steering wheel and the updated center console and all that. Started making deliveries, and then just a few days after the price drop, they take it off the website entirely, which I've been reading a lot of different theories on. I mean, some people are just saying that, you know, they had a small amount of batteries for a while and they realized that they could deliver more vehicles with that smaller amount of batteries, so they just decided to do the standard range Model Y temporarily so that they could deliver a lot more cars, and then once they kind of hit their quota of necessary vehicles for the first quarter that can be built with that small a battery pack, they just decide, okay, we're not taking orders for that anymore. But if they do genuinely plan on bringing it back in the next quarter, I feel like it would make more sense to just put the estimated delivery time at like 12 weeks or something. Just say that, okay, we're not interested in building any more standard range Model Ys for a while, but we'll still take reservations. We're just going to let you know it's probably going to be 3 to 4 months before you actually get delivery of those models. But if you're willing to go with a dual motor, you can get those in the next couple weeks. So Tesla is very comfortable putting things on the website that aren't going to be available for a while, you know, like the Plaid Plus Model S. So the fact that they don't want to even let anyone order it right now, I think says a lot about the future of the product. And Elon did, of course, mention that it is still an off-menu item, which confuses me even further. So for those who may have not remembered, an off-menu item means that you can call in at Tesla and order one not on the website. And I think in some cases, if you're at a Tesla showroom, you can even order one from existing inventory within there. But the last off-menu Tesla they had available was the standard range Model 3, which is now gone entirely. So even the off-menu option doesn't exist anymore. But essentially the off-menu standard range was just a software limited version of standard range plus, which is sold on the website for a little bit more than $35,000. But back when it was available, you would basically put in an order for standard range plus and then call Tesla and tell them to label your order as a standard range option. They would install some firmware on it that would limit the battery and turn off autopilot as a default feature, and then they would deduct that additional pricing, and that's how Tesla technically reached the $35,000 price point. But I agree with a lot of people in the extent that I think that's too confusing, and if you're not going to sell a vehicle on your website that you're proud to advertise, then probably just don't sell it at all. I don't like this, well, we have it, but you kind of have to know about it. It's like a secret menu thing, because that always to me came across as it's not very profitable to sell this vehicle, so we don't want that many people knowing about it. And when Elon said it's an off-menu item, I took that as we lowered the price on the standard range Model Y for some reason. Again, I'm not really sure why, but they lowered the price and probably saw a huge number of orders and potentially saw a flatlining of orders when it came to the long range option, because they realized, holy crap, so many people are happy with the standard range Model Y, but most of our assembly lines are probably dedicated to the dual motors, and now that standard option is cannibalizing all the rest of the Model Y sales. So because of that, we're going to take it off the website, make it harder to find, make it harder for people to order, so that those who really, really want it can still get their hands on it, but everyday people who don't follow Tesla in the news and don't watch these types of EV videos, they're just thinking, oh, so the cheapest one is $49,000? Well, I guess it's never been cheaper, and the range is 326. That's really good, so I guess I'll just opt for the dual motor variant. Of course, more expensive Model Y means thicker profit margins for Tesla, but yeah, off-menu items rarely stick around for extended periods of time, and it sounds very bizarre to me for Tesla to have a whole assembly line for the standard range Model Y, especially if it's only going to be people calling in or ordering directly from existing inventory. I feel like that's going to be a very small number of people, and the only way they could justify it with the standard range Model 3 was that they were actually selling standard range plus, which hardware-wise was very, very similar, and it was just a software limitation, but rear-wheel drive standard range isn't a software limitation. This is like a separate hardware vehicle with a smaller battery, with one motor, that's going to require a whole separate assembly line, which has a lot of people wondering, does that mean that Tesla has something else in the works, like a long-range rear-wheel drive option that maybe they'll sell for cheaper, but then if someone wants to order a standard range, they can call in, software limit that long-range variant, and then you have a standard range Model Y that actually has a long-range pack, but they discount the price after the fact, and maybe even within the code of the vehicle, you can unlock that battery pack for a purchase after delivery. But honestly, I don't think that's a great idea in the first place, because it's likely going to result in Tesla not securing too high a profit margin on vehicles that have large battery packs, which does cost Tesla a lot. So I don't really see that, for example, happening, but Elon doesn't seem too interested in the long-range rear-wheel drive option either. In response to someone on Twitter, he said that they already have too much manufacturing complexity with the Model Y, which I'm still a little confused by. It's like, you have two variants now. You have dual motor long range, dual motor performance. Are you saying that's too complicated? Having one option that only has has one motor is just too much. I don't know, but at this point I wish it would just come back. I want standard range range to be an option. I think this was the most simple, easy to understand lineup. It was like, if you don't care about range, but you just want a Tesla and you want it to be a hatchback and everything, great, $40,000. If you want more range and if you want two motors, easy, $50,000. And if you want performance, the best Tesla possible, then $60,000. It was very easy to understand. There was no off menu, there was no plus variant. But at this point, if I had to guess what the most likely outcome of everything is, I don't think keeping a dedicated assembly line for an off menu item makes sense. And I think that right now, they're probably a little production constrained or battery constrained to the point that they want more people ordering the dual motor variants. That's why they took off standard range. And similar to the Model 3, within a few weeks maybe, we could see Tesla launch the standard range plus, and that's probably going to be how Elon reaches a compromise with other people at Tesla who, you know, there must have been a certain number of Tesla staff members that were saying, come on, Elon, standard range Model Y, some people are gonna love it, trust us, we need to launch it, and he caved in. But if they do standard range plus, they could be able to fit a slightly larger battery pack in the Model Y, still rear-wheel drive, but the range could surpass 250 miles, so then Elon Musk gets his range of excellence that he strives for. So he's like, okay, the range isn't too low, but the price could be a little bit higher so that they can have thick enough profit margins to keep it on the website. Maybe that model's gonna be like $41,000 or $42,000. But if you want the off-menu $40,000 version of the Model Y, you just gotta call in after you ordered a standard range plus Model Y and say, hey, I want that to be standard range, and then they software limit the battery and maybe give you some partial premium interior. The sound system's not quite as good or something like that. But I agree, what I think is most likely is very complicated, and it's exactly what happened with the Model 3, which I'm not a fan of. I feel like if they're not gonna sell the standard range Model 3, they shouldn't have a standard range plus. That should just be standard range. And I also feel like if Tesla couldn't afford to have a bunch of people ordering a $40,000 standard range Y, then they shouldn't have launched it in the first place. This whole price changes by the week and then next week we take it off the website thing is very hard to follow, and I imagine that there's all kinds of arguments about all the subjects I talked about today within Tesla right now. Elon's saying, no, we need the range to be good, and everyone else is saying, Elon, the VW ID4 is going to be way cheaper, the Hyundai Kona is cheaper. Well, Model Y is looking like the pricey option compared to all these other vehicles coming out, like the Bolt EV and the Bolt EUV, and the Ford Mach-E has some cheaper alternatives too. So if we make the Model Y, you know, a dual motor exclusive car, we're going to come across as the luxury option, not the affordable option. And Elon is probably like, well, we're still better, so people are still going to buy us. And there's probably truth to both sides of the argument, but man, to be a fly in the wall in that meeting right now and figure out what exactly is going on would be amazing. So I'm sure you guys have tons of theories of your own, so feel free to let me know in the comments below. I personally think we're going to see a standard range plus Model Y in a few weeks, and due to profitability and shortage of batteries, they're not going to go forward with the long range rear wheel drive. As much as that's what I want to happen, I want there to be a standard range and a long range rear wheel drive, but Tesla is probably well aware that those single motor Teslas would end up vastly outselling the dual motor Teslas, which isn't good for profit margins and isn't good for their pre-established assembly lines that already have dual motors. So we're basically going to see a repeat of the Model 3 launch. What do you guys think? Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.